Hello guys, what a mess everything is in currently. The latest, Amazon have, with virtually no notice, effectively shut their warehouse doors to all new shipments. So unless they're household or medical, you can't send anything into their FBA warehouses, which is an absolute nightmare. Came out of the blue, and it's affected a huge number of sellers around the USA and throughout Europe as well, mainly because it's been done with just no notice whatsoever. The lockdown is in place from yesterday, which is the 17th of March, through to at least the 5th of April. I personally guess it's going to be extended beyond that date, but either way, when they reopen, there's going to be a huge rush from sellers all trying to get their stock back into the FBA warehouses to restock their inventory and get their listings active again. The problem everyone has now is that Amazon has basically left your store wide open to the public, but they've come along and put a padlock on your stock door. So people can still carry on buying your stuff, your FBA stuff, but ultimately when you sell out, second you're out, you're immediately going to start losing revenue because your listing is going to go inactive. Now that's not good if you rely on Amazon as your main income, which a lot of FBA sellers do these days. So everyone's up in arms about this development, and it's mainly because it's been done with no notice. Literally overnight you try and create a shipment and it was coming up with a manifest error saying cannot save shipment, and since then they've released an email confirming what's going on. But either way, there's no notice and everyone that sells via FBA is in the same boat. I think a major issue is the fact that a lot of sellers have tried to be a bit savvy and they've purchased a lot of inventory knowing full well that there's going to be high demand for certain products, and yeah, Amazon's still done this with no notice. So these guys have now been left with huge inventory, huge levels of stock, and no ability to actually send it into the FBA warehouse. So what they do with that stock. So this video is really to discuss how can you survive this Amazon FBA lockdown. Many sellers are contemplating converting their listings from FBA over to FBM, which is seller fulfilled, but that relies on you monitoring your FBA stock very carefully and catching the listing at the right time, so when you go out of stock you switch it across over to seller fulfilled without it going out of stock. But there's always a delay from when you switch from FBA to seller fulfilled, and during that time your listing will be out of stock, and it does affect the rankings pretty much immediately as soon as your listing goes out of stock, so you have to try and avoid it. Some sellers are taking even more drastic action and they're setting up a duplicate new listing that they can start selling products through. But the issue with that is, first, it's against policy. You shouldn't be setting up duplicate listings. Very often the system will catch you out and it won't allow it anyway. And even if it does get through, it's a fresh listing, it's got no ranking authority, it's got no product ratings. It's not going to do very well. It's not going to solve the problem, basically. So the way to effectively solve this is by adding an FBM, which is a seller fulfilled option, to your existing FBA listing. Now this way, when you do inevitably run out of your FBA inventory, the listing will automatically switch across over to the FBM option, and the listing will not go out of stock at all. It will basically stay in stock throughout that period. Now most sellers know that if a listing goes out of stock, even temporarily, it has a massive negative impact on your rankings. So sellers do whatever they can at all costs to avoid having their listings going out of stock, and by setting up an FBM option within the FBA listing, you're going to mitigate it and avoid that listing going out of stock during these times. So how do you set this up? It's relatively simple to do, actually. Now, to do it, first of all, log into your Seller Central control panel and make a note of the SKU and ASIN. They're two important things you need to write down of the product that you basically want to add that FBM option to on your FBA listing. Once you've done that, go to the catalog link at the top left corner of the page, and from the drop down selection choose add products. You then enter your ASIN into that next page so it will find your product. Once you've done that, you choose the product and you click sell this. That will then take you through to the listing creation page, and on that page you'll see towards the top right hand area of the tables as an advanced view mode. You need to select that to show all of the fields. Just helps you populate the listing better that way. Once you've done that, you need to set the SKU to the same as your FBA one, but a tip is to add FBM at the end. So just append it with FBM, because that then differentiates it from your FBA one. You know which one is which. And another very important thing to do is when you set your price, make sure you set it slightly higher than your FBA one. Otherwise, you're going to be competing with yourself in terms of trying to win the buy box, and you don't want your seller fulfilled option to win the buy box unnecessarily. So even if you set it, like 10% more, whatever you want, as long as it is a higher price than your FBA one, the FBA listing will normally command the buy box and the FBM will sit underneath it as a secondary option. Now complete any of the other fields that you feel are relevant to the listing, and then at the bottom, again, it's very important, you will see a fulfillment channel option. Now you need to select I will ship this item myself, and then once you've done that, click save and finish, and that will then in about 5 minutes add itself to your inventory as an FBM option of that same listing. So the end result of this process is you'll have your company showing as a seller on that listing twice now, once with an FBA option, which should win the buy box, and also once as an FBM option as well. So to clarify again, the reason you're doing this is when your FBA stock sells out, the listing will auto revert over onto the FBM option instead, and the listing will not go out of stock. You then ship those orders yourself until such time that your FBA inventory is able to ship into the warehouse, and at that time it will take over and your FBM option will fall into second place again. Just be sure to remember that all your FBM sales, the your seller fulfilled orders, need to be manually marked as dispatched within your Seller Central control panel under the orders area. And if you don't do that, then you will start getting strikes off Amazon, and you could even go as far as losing your selling privileges. So it's very important you remember that when you're doing the FBM options, always mark your orders as dispatched on a daily basis. It's crazy really, many sellers rely on Amazon as their main source of income. And this recent last minute development is just another example of how Amazon can just seemingly move the goalpost for everyone, regardless of if you're doing £100 or £10,000 a day in sales on their platform. This unexpected lockdown is really another reason why you need to ensure you know all the options available to you to keep your revenue streams open on their platform. Some of you may already know how to do this, but many sellers have no idea that you can add this FBM option onto your existing FBA listing to protect you in these unknown times and circumstances. So that's all for this video, and I hope it's helped some of you better understand the options available to keep your sales coming in through Amazon during this difficult time. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up. Consider subscribing to the channel for more Amazon Seller Central content like this. Feel free to drop a comment, and thanks very much for watching.